Oh, I just thought, there's a lot of stuff going on with, with how bad the books are nowadays and the modern stuff. So it's like, sitting around and complaining about all the bad stuff. Yeah, maybe that can be fun, roasting them and everything. But a lot of people do that. Who's out there actually promoting something worth reading? Who's out there talking about like, hey, here's something good and you should check it out? I thought maybe that's a tack we could take with this is like kind of, instead of steering people away from the bad stuff, which is important, we could also try to maybe steer them towards some good stuff instead.
Fans are the greatest people in the world.
Much entertainment return for your dollar.
This is no way to tell stories. This is not how to do comic books. This is not fun.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book.
Well, I got to tell you, without fans, the whole entertainment business would fade away.
All right, folks, welcome to another Comic Talk. It's great to be back in a new year. Hope you're doing well. It's our first Why It's Great of 2024, and with me again is this guy. That's right, James Meeley. Sequential Treasures in the house. We're going to talk about some good comics, some good recommendations, things like that. So, James, my friend, hopefully you had a good holiday, New Year, and such, and you're doing well.
And if you take a look here, Doc, on top there on the rack here, very top, Batman. There he is, starting off the year right.
That's right. We got to find some good stuff to read, good stuff to enjoy and collect. So that's great to hear there. So, all right. Well, let's get right to your selection. This week was a spectacular Spider-Man. We have not done any spectacular Spider-Man on my channel. There's the cover for you folks. I zoomed all the way out so you could see it. It is against Beetle, Spider-Man versus Beetle, a villain who kind of gets mocked unfairly in some ways. But yeah, there you go. We'll zoom in back into where we're supposed to be.
Well, and this issue is a little special for me because it's not just a great comic, but it's probably one of my top 10 favorite comics of all time.
Awesome.
So this is like a real special one to me. This is from 1990, issue 164. Great Sal Buscema work there on that cover, like very action-oriented, the menacing of the Beetle, Spider-Man crashing through. Just a great action page image to get you set off for the story, which is something a little different. At least it was for me at the time when I first read it. So.
Very cool. Very cool. I love the fact that their upload on this one actually had the ads, which I don't always get the ads. So that's pretty cool. We get to see some of the retro ads. Here is the Konami games. Yep. Before we get to this. And actually you can tell it's the newsprint and not a digital copy. So it's nice to see an actual scan go in here as well. And I love the fact that you look at the detail on the wings and in the background on the cityscape and just beautiful work.
This was Sal Buscema altering his style. If you knew his style from like the very late Silver and Bronze Age, and you see this work, he's altered his style a bit in like the 80s and into the 90s. And so this is like the more modern style he did. And the story starts out here. It's called Bugged. And it just starts with, and the thing that made this so special to me was that this whole entire story, all the captions of thought are from the Beatles' perspective. This is so I'd never seen that before. All the times I've read stories, it was always the hero's perspective or the third perspective of the narrator. It was never the villain whose point of view you saw stuff from. And in this, Spiel's just fresh out of prison. He's out there flying, and he notes here, beautiful night. Wish I could enjoy it. But ever since I got out of prison last time, I've had this nervous condition. I keep feeling like, I don't know, like I'm being watched all the time. Funny, huh? Me, the Beetle, a big-time costume crook, scared of shadows, a regular laugh riot. And so he's like a nervous wreck in this. This is supposed super powerful being of evil, and yet he's scared to death. He's just like a nervous wreck,
and rightfully so, because moments later,
yes, and then and we see why. Is his whole thing is he's now afraid of dealing with superheroes. And right here, it's just a great scene. He's like, it's good. What makes it worse is that I'm usually got a reason to be afraid. Like now, when my helmet proximity sensor alarm warns me of danger nearby. Him. Everywhere I go in New York, it seems he's there. 6 weeks I've been out of prison. 6 weeks and I haven't managed a single job because every time I try, he swings by. I hate him. I hate all of them. Lousy costume freaks, so-called superheroes. got to calm down. I've got an appointment. And so you see, he's a nervous wreck because he's afraid of dealing with superheroes now. He's all the years he's dealt with this stuff, and it's all coming back to haunt him. Now he's a nervous wreck because he's afraid of dealing with the superpowered beings who've always, beaten the crap out of him, and especially, of course, Spider-Man.
I want to just pause because I really, really love this panel where it's Todd McFarlane gets a lot of credit for some of the acrobatic styles with that, but
Yes.
this panel really jumped out at me of what they're really going for here, and obviously the foot kind of goes off. That's a really, really nice panel by Sal.
And then so the Beetle, he heads in and he has a meeting with the Arranger, which is the guy who works for the Kingpin, his right-hand man. And he comes in saying, I'm looking, for a job. I hear you got a job for me. He goes, "Indeed, I do, Mr. Beetle, as you say. I want to hire you to kill Spider-Man." And just his reaction, even with the mask on, just you can tell he's shaken even to hear that. And again, it just goes back to the whole premise of all this is he's just totally, a nervous wreck in fear of having to deal with superheroes. And so he kind of lets the Arranger hear about it. And he's like, "Whatever you're smoking, Baldy, don't blow it my way. I'm through messing with superheroes. After my last stint upriver, I swore I'd do nothing but straight crime. If one of those costume freaks even gets near me these days, I scram." And so there he to tell you just how deep this fear runs with him. And so the Ranger goes, "Well, okay, so it's not a total waste here. I got this shipment of diamonds that's going to be coming around." He goes, "This is more for the straight crime you say you're looking for. So I want you to knock it over and take out take the diamonds, and you'll get a cut. And that's what we want to have you do." He's like, "All right, fine." But you can see even the Beetle, as he accepts the job, he says, he goes, "Something about the bald guy warns me he could mean trouble, but I don't listen. Sometimes I'm stupid that way." And he's right, because what happens? Well, the Ranger calls the Daily Bugle looking for Peter Parker. Now, why would he be looking for Peter Parker?
So I love the fact that there's the term straight crime. I just love that.
Yes.
Instead of saying like low level crime or something, or petty crimes or something like that. No, straight crime. Like, so it's okay. Well, as though that won't get you back in jail again.
He's differentiated between like the high value stuff, like they're trying to take over the world or trying to
danger to citizens versus theft and burglary.
I just want to steal some stuff. I don't want to deal with something where someone's going to try to kill people or try to take over the world and deal with superheroes. I just want to steal some stuff and make some money.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, phone goes into Peter, who's with Mary Jane,
and then we see Peter's got a day off. He's spending it with his lovely wife. And of course, he gets called in because of the Arranger's phone call. And so it kind of dampens the festivities he had planned with the wifely unit there. So, of course, that's not going to go very well in the story as we see. Here it is. He goes, "Great. Kate Cushing gave me my first photo assignment in 2 weeks, but I got to be there in 15 minutes. So I'm going to take a couple hours. I could be home by lunch. Better half a day together than none. Maybe I can make you something special, to eat." And it's like, there it is. It's like, so yeah, I like the interaction here, the lovey-dovey stuff. This is still early in the marriage years. It's like, about 3 years out from the wedding issue that they did, in the annual. And so it's still like in the lovey-dovey, newlywed stage of marriage with them. And I really like the way that it was presented. These are two people who are very much in love, who want to spend time together, who enjoy being around each other, and it's just something you don't really see so much of in the books anymore.
Well, and I also I'm going to enlarge this a little bit more. Hopefully I don't have that make much of a difference, but for folks, because I do complain a lot about the digital art, and here's why. Look at the way that there's even marks on his back and here on the pillows and the sheets. I mean, you just get a lot of intricate details. And if this is one of the more modern books, this would all be digitally, just be plain and generic. And there's a lot of this stuff would not be filled in. Even the support bars on the lampshade are drawn in. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that ad. Wow, Iron Sword. That's old school Nintendo game right there.
So he heads over to do this supposed what he thinks is going to be an interview with the Arranger, but it turns out he tells him, he goes, "I understand, as a good citizen, I hear there's a crime that's about to be committed, and since you know Spider-Man, I thought you could get in contact with him so he could take care of this problem." And he tells him kind of what the whole thing is, and he goes, it's not a stunt. I'm not playing a game. This is for real. He goes, that armored car will be robbed by the Beetle, a villain too powerful for the police to handle, but not too powerful for your friend Spider-Man. And he does this because of again, at the time, the book Webs that he had done, where the Bugle had put out a book of all his Spider-Man photos over the years. And that's kind of how he feels that, well, you obviously know Spider-Man, or otherwise you wouldn't have all this. And so it's kind of like how, in a way, the secret identity almost gets in the way, because, they think that there's a connection between him and Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of interesting how that plays out. And then just look at the look on his face. He's totally angered, because he thought this was going to be just a simple photo shoot, take a few pictures, maybe to ask a question or two to the guy for the story, and then I'm going to go back home and be with my wife, and find out, no, it's not going to be quite so simple. And that's you can see right here the anger in his face. And so Joey Mercado sits down, and she continues the interview. Meanwhile, we get back to the Beetle, and this is where I this is where the story really hit me, because it again, this is all Beetle's perspective, this whole all the captions here, and the next couple pages here is key. I mean, I burned them into my brain with the dialogue that's on those pages. Okay, he's getting ready to go out to do the job, and so he flies out, and he's thinking about like how how he's not feeling very good about doing this. He's still nervous as hell, and he's like, so he wants to get another job. But what else could I do? What do I put on my resume? Previous experience robbing banks and fighting superheroes. You don't think about that kind of a thing when you get into this business. All you care about are thrills and money. But trust me, the thrills lose their charm after a while, and then what you're left with is the money. The funny part is, the money alone really isn't enough. And then he continues on, and he goes, but by the time you figure that out, the money is all there is. One more score, and then I'll get out. Buy a house up in Oregon on a hill in the woods. Live off interest, invest my cash and live off the interest. Me in the woods. There's a picture. I wouldn't last 2 days. I mean, and so this is really the thing to me to change the Beetle, because before this, he was like a character who never cared about anybody. He didn't, he'd screw you over if it benefited him. All of that. And yet here in these 2 pages, you come to feel pity for the Beetle. You don't see him as like a powerful supervillain, some guy out to like screw people over like the way you think. He's just a guy who, when he was young, made a mistake. And now he's stuck on a treadmill, and he doesn't know how to get off. He wants to get off. He doesn't want to do this anymore, but he doesn't know how to get off. He's just like, I just got to get one more score so I can get out. Please, just let me get one big score, and I can leave all this behind me, start a whole fresh life. He's trapped. He's trapped in like a quagmire, and he doesn't see a way out. And that's kind of plays to a truth of life. I mean, when you think about real life criminals, how many of them could probably identify with something like this? They made a few mistakes when they were young, doing stupid stuff, and now they have a record, and now they can't get a good job, and now they can't, they can't get a good living out of anything. They can't, people don't trust them. People give them the side eye all the time. They don't know how to fix their life because they've done these things that they have sort of like scarred them, and it makes you feel for the Beetle in a way you never did before. This is the true crux of the story for me. I mean, it continues on from this point, but this to me is the heart of the story, was those 2 pages where you get to see the thoughts of the Beetle. Even as he's committing a crime, you can see him. He's out there, he's blasting away, he's robbing the arm, he's doing this thing that he doesn't really want to do, but he doesn't know what else to do, and he's just stuck, he's trapped, and you feel bad for him. And then, of course, Spider-Man's there, of course, waiting for him, and he finds out that, he's been had. And so, there's a little bit of a battle. The Beetle, he blasts him. He tries to get away. He takes off. He goes, get away, Beetle buddy. This was supposed to be my day off. You spoiled my vacation. Now, remember, again, this is going to be key towards the end of the story. And so, there's a little bit of a battle. They fight it a bit. It's some great action here with Sal. The next page here, up with Spider-Man in the air, no less, fighting the Beetle in his turf. And yet, he goes, how did he know? How could he suspect? It was all arranged. The arranger. And there it is. He goes, he wanted me to kill Spider-Man. So when I refused, he set me up. There it is. He understands that I've been screwed. The Beetle understands it. And so he plays this game. All of a sudden, it looks like his armor loses its power, and he falls down into the smokestack in this ship. And there's an explosion, and you think, oh God, did I kill him? What happened? We're fighting. I don't get it. What happened to him? One moment we're fighting, and the next, he's dead. And so like you think he's gone. Like, oh my God, did Spider-Man just kill the Beetle? So we go back to the arranger, and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden here comes some information that Spider-Man isn't dead. He finds out no, Spider-Man's not dead yet, and so he's like, uh-oh. So what's that mean? He goes, unfortunate. I hope to eliminate Spider-Man as a threat to Mr. Fisk's operations. He may suspect a setup. Check our security measures and report. So he knows that he's in trouble because the Beetle has failed. And so all of a sudden, it's trouble does show up on the next page, but it's not Spider-Man that shows up to cause trouble. It's the Beetle, Beetle, oh Lord, you're alive. No thanks to you, you double-crossing creep. And bad enough I had to take a dive down a cruise ship funnel just to get me away from the web slinger. You sicked on me. Don't I didn't. I swear I didn't. Don't lie. I hate it when people lie. He says there it is. He knows he's been screwed, and he's just so mad. And so right before he's about to take it out, he goes, Beetle, you can't kill him in front of a witness. You're right. I better kill you first. And then of course, enter our hero again. He goes, you know what your problem is, Beetle? You just don't know when to leave well enough alone. He's right. Coming here was stupid. After slipping down that funnel, I should have skipped town. But I was so angry at being set up, I couldn't think straight. And so he admits that, he let his anger get the better of him. And so again, he fights Spider-Man some more. He runs. He tries, he goes, I'll cut out Oregon. I hear it rains a lot in Portland. So what's a little rain? He's just trying to think of, just get me out of here, get me out of this problem, get me away from all of this. And of course, it doesn't work because, Spider-Man catches up with him. And then, it just, again, just the dialogue of the Beatles' inner monologue is just so great. Forget Oregon. I'm leaving the country. My nerves can't take this kind of pressure. Maybe I ought to move someplace quiet. Yeah, like Beirut. Please, God, don't let him find me. I swear I'll go straight if you just don't let him. And then, of course, he does find him. And, there it is. And he just starts whipping him. He just starts whipping him. It's not even close. I mean, he just bam, bam, he just destroys the armor. And then just that last punch, boom. And there it is. He goes, you're not a crook. You're a crook in a super suit. That's all. And without your power amplified body armor, you're just a crook, and not a very bright one at that. And he goes, he's right. He's so right. I don't want to get hurt anymore. And then I give up. And that's how it ends. That's how it ends with the battle. And so it continues on for a little bit. But then, he asks him, he goes, why, Spider-Man, why did the Arranger, try to make us fight? What did he do? What's it for? And Spider-Man tells him in a previous storyline, he goes, I think it's because he doesn't want the Kingpin to find out about a deal we made while the Kingpin was at war with the Lobo brothers. I've got the feeling the Arranger's in deep water with his boss because of that little gang war. And then after today's fiasco, that water's going to get a whole lot hotter. So that's the whole thing here is it's all been because of something that he had done during another storyline where he enlisted Spider-Man's help against the Kingpin's wishes. And now he's afraid the Kingpin's going to find out. So he's trying to get Spider-Man killed. And that was the whole premise for all of that. And so then, it comes down to, eventually, the Kingpin calls him in. And I love the Beatles dialogue on this page. He goes, so the Arranger's got a problem with the Kingpin, huh? Well, that's some consolation. Funny. You see a guy like the Arranger and you see someone with the power and perks. And you never think what it's got to cost to keep what he's got. You never think there's a guy whose whole life depends on keeping one man happy. So what happens when the boss ain't happy no more? Makes you wonder. Maybe there are worse things than a stretch behind bars.
Indeed.
And so, of course, our hero returns home and, so he's late. And of course, the wife's asleep. And again, like I said, notice how he said he told the Beetle, you ruined my day off. This is what he tells him. The thing I don't understand about what happened today is why Spider-Man seems so mad at me. The way he went after me, you'd think I stole his best girl or something.
Guy's just too high strung, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe he needs a vacation. Oregon. I hear it's real nice in Oregon this time of year. Wonder how hard it'll be to break out of jail. You know, and just
And she
a
does.
great
She
little.
does. At least she does wake up at the end there and grabs me by
Well,
the ear. So that's good.
of course, she was probably awake the whole time. You know, she was just pretending to be asleep when she heard him coming in, and that just a great little fun story with a little moral in it. You know, like I said, and again, you felt bad for the beetle, and in fact, this issue is kind of neat because as you see there, you saw the letters page. A few issues later, when the letters page was talking about this issue, the editor noted that a lot of people wrote in about this issue saying Spider-Man came off as kind of a bully in the story because the Beetle didn't seem to be much of a threat. The way he thrashed him in those last couple pages you saw, it's like it wasn't even close. He just totally tore him apart. And it's like they say Spider-Man kind of came off like a bully, because you felt bad for the Beetle. Again, those pages I told you about where you go into his dialogue of what it means to be a criminal, and you felt bad for him. And then Spider-Man just totally thrashed him. And you're like, God, dude, just stop hitting him. He's down. He's over. Just stop hitting him.
Wow. This
But
has
yeah,
been
just
fun. I really love
just-
this. And I got to be honest, this is a ad for conventions in April of 1990.
Yep.
There's one here for Tampa at the Holiday Inn. And I'm thinking, I may have gone to that show. Yeah, just so you guys know. Yeah.
But just an excellent, just done in one story with a
all
little
this.
moral in there. Some great action shots like this. That shot right there of the Beetle getting just the backhanded from Spider-Man, just like bam, that backhand shot is just incredible. I mean, this is what you don't see in the books today. I mean, name me a modern book where you've seen a battle like this, where this is what happened. You can't. They don't focus on the action anymore. That's not what they focus on. They focus on a bunch of other nonsense rather than a good story with a lot of action in it.
Yeah, I mean, I would push back and say that the modern comics that are okay, it's like on one hand, right? So we still get it with the Spawn verse. We get. I think I got a video that dropped recently about Incredible Hulk. Like it's not every single issue, but they do get it right sometimes. There's the same can be said for like the new Transformers line. I think it's doing really, really well in that regard. But it's just it's so few and far between these days compared to how it was back then.
It's the exception rather than the rule. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So good
But
choice.
like just classic Spider-Man. He's out there talking smack while he's fighting, and just great action. And again, you really come to feel for it. And to me, this is the issue that launches the Beetle on the road to the Thunderbolts, where he becomes Mach 1 and then later wants to be a hero. This is kind of the issue, I think, that kind of sets the tone for that, because you see again throughout the whole issue, he doesn't really want to do what he's doing. And I think that's kind of, so like I think that's kind of where like a germination from the story that would come later, several years later, with him in the Thunderbolts. It all begins here, because you have a guy who's a villain who doesn't really want to do it anymore, and so he needs a way out, and that's what the Thunderbolts was a way out for him. And so, like I said, just playing to the future, and just from little nuggets. Like I said, that's the great thing about stories like this. It's like you do it all done in one story, and you think, oh, well, that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything else, but yet it could play later, and someone else could pick up the gauntlet and go, hey, you know what? That's an interesting concept. Let me take it a little further. And that's how you end up with great stories. And so to me, this is exactly what you want in a Spider-Man book. And like I said, to me, it's one of my top 10 favorite comics of all time. They made me feel sympathy for a villain who up to this point you would never have felt any sympathy for. He had never done anything that could put him in a sympathetic light, and yet here they did. And that's the genius of the story. And Jerry Conway, who unfortunately is a very big TDS sufferer, he wrote a great story here, and for me, him and Dave Michelini, they were the Spider-Man writers of my era. That's Spider-Man to me, those two guys, because they wrote the majority of the Spider-Man stuff that I read. And of the two, I think I actually prefer Conway's stuff. So, this is just a great issue, great Sal Buscema art, like two classic creators creating a modern story at the time with, an angle that you never probably had seen much before, from the villain perspective. And again, it's just a story that would then play to bigger things in the future. And just you never would have noticed it when you read the story on its own. But then knowing how things played out later with the Beetle, you're like, oh, well, maybe this was the beginning of all that. So,
yeah,
and again, a very, very inexpensive issue. It shouldn't be costing you an arm and leg to get that. So it's not a key or anything like that. So it's very affordable. And again, just a great fun. I mean, even just on its own, it's a great fun read.
Agreed. Mine is also sort of like a personal favorite rather than some sort of like groundbreaking thing. I was a Sandman reader. I've long said if people want to take away my man card for also enjoying Sandman, I don't care. Neil Gaiman's work I thought was just interesting and different. I enjoyed mythology. I really enjoyed, the Roman gods, Greek god type stuff, and I felt like the creation of these beings that control everything. Obviously, this centers around Sandman, aka Dream. However, this is issue number 18, also in 1990, which is part of the Dream Country storyline. Kelly Jones does the art.
Nice.
Beautiful stuff here. But what was interesting, why I picked this one, was because it's dreams from a cat's point of view. So it opens with a human who adopts this little kitty cat, and then the thought bubbles and the outside cat is, she's here. Are you coming? It should be amusing. I don't know. How can I get out? I can't get through any of the wall openings. So the cat is immediately trying to run away, and this is the other cat, and they're communicating with one another, and then they're kind of running out into the woods, and they're going to go meet another cat. It's called A Dream of 1,000 Cats. And again, talking about Kelly Jones art, I mean, these are cats and statues, and look at the details and the intricacies that are in every single panel. It's crazy how.
Well, the shadow work by Malcolm Jones. I mean, that shadowing on the statue is just perfection.
Yeah. And then basically there's a story where it's just talking about their lives and what dreams are and sharing dreams and that kind of thing. It tells a story here through these cats' perspective. And this cat in particular, she's telling a story of how she kind of fell in love with this little orange tomcat. She's a Siamese. And then she's telling her story here to all the little cats, how they made their way together. And of course, here she is with her kittens. She's got 4 or 5 kittens. Her owners find out she's pregnant, has these kittens. They're like, oh my gosh, she's a purebred Blue Point Siamese. These little bundles of fluff aren't worth diddly squat. And he does this horrible, heinous, put the kitties in a bag and throws them in a river kind of thing. And she's traumatized, right? She's like, they took them from me. I felt them thrash and claw, sightlessly felt them call me in their panic and in their fear. And then they were gone. And then she's sad. And look at all the cats are looking on as she's telling the story. And then she's just kind of moping in front of the fire. She's kind of sad, and she talks about how she prayed and she dreamed. And she kind of goes through her dream sequence, and then why are you even in the dream land? This is the raven, the faceless, one of the faceless ravens. Why have you ventured into the heart of the dreaming, little cat? There is nothing here for you, and I've come here for justice. I've come here for revelation. I've come here for wisdom. So it's Dream and it's Sandman working through the cat to tell this tale of how the humans existed, and then it kind of tells a story about there was a time maybe when the cats were massive and the humans took care of the cats and those kinds of things, and then the humans would learn to dream, so the humans would gain control and they would rise up and they would become the dominant species on Earth and that kind of thing. And then we cut back to real life where it says some of them believed and they dreamed, and for a while nothing happened. But one night enough of them dreamed. It did not take many of them, 1,000 perhaps, no more. They dreamed, and the next day things changed. So the cats were the pets, the small creatures. They were no longer the dominant creatures. Humans were huge, cats were tiny. Humans were the dominant species, and we were prey to them, to dogs, to their metal machines, prey to the world the humans had brought with them. So it's a dream, but it's not a dream. It's a parable, because we end up cutting back as she's telling the story to these cats about how if just enough people dream, enough people think whatever, it worked for the humans, maybe it could work for us too. And that's how she kind of leaves them. She's like, we can come back to this situation. And then it ends with the cat going back to her owner, where she's in her little bed, kind of kicking and dreaming and twitching. You've seen cats dream like that, right?
Yep.
And I just think that it's such a great, like a parable about the ills of life, that the things that are done wrong to us, how we're wronged in life. We get a bad beat, we get a bad situation. It's beyond our control. What do we do with it? How do we try to have some faith that things can get better? How do we persevere through all of that? And then trying to create. Gaiman's doing a great job of trying to talk about how, tragedy and your choice of how you want to deal with what you can and can't control. Like, you can control how you react. You can't always control the fact that you're in pain or you're suffering or you're put into a predicament that's beyond your control.
You can control your reactions, but you can't always control the conditions that cause the reaction.
Correct. Right. So, the story centers around like the deepest of wounds, right? He uses cats rather than humans because the trauma of I don't even know if they could have published this in 1990 to like have a bag of babies get thrown in, I don't know. But reality was a bag of cats being thrown into.
Also, something I noticed in the story is like how it played to the power of dreaming, because the cat said that it's because humans dreamed that they became dominant. Mm-hmm. And so it's like it's like, what is it that gives you the power to change these circumstances you are in? Dreaming, the ability to dream, to think of something else, to think of something better, to come up with maybe concepts that even in your conscious mind you would not consider. But through dreaming, you get power, and that power can help you change your circumstance. And so it's through the power of dreaming that you become more powerful than you are.
Because the actual line here is, they dreamed the world so it always was the way it is now, little one. They never was. There never was a world of high cat ladies and cat lords. They changed the universe from the beginning of all things until the end of time. And then it was like, do you understand? Yeah, I think I do. Then you must take your task. You must you know the burden you must bear. Are you strong enough? And I hope so. Then wake my child with my blessing. And then she goes on a mission to go and get cats to dream it. Can you dream it? If you can dream it, it can become reality. And I think this is, again, the extension too of like, what is the pain or the suffering that's in the world? It could be something that is more of a societal ill or something that's maybe way grander than you, that you can even deal with that type of oppression or that type of ailment or that type of pain and suffering. And it can be grander than that. So while this is obviously within the framework of the Dream Country story arc or a story set, it in and of itself is a very self-contained story in that. But the parable itself kind of can stand on its own or stand within the context of something greater, like I think it does. So I really think that Gaiman's work is one of those things that I don't think is ever really going to be lost. I think that Sandman is always going to have some following, always find some love, find some people. I think there'll be, as generations of readers, even the YA people that are into like manga and things like that, I think they would gravitate back more towards a lot of those Vertigo titles because they were really what those folks read. If they didn't read a lot, they were into indie titles and Sandman, things like that. So, because I had a lot of friends that were like that. That's what they were into. They weren't really into capes and tights.
Yeah,
they were into that type of stuff,
or even into like war and like westerns, even just some people there's but like these more. I mean, I'd use the word, but it's not the way that it's normally used. Like these adult themes, not adult in the sense of like the puerile way of like sexual stuff, but like adult in like higher concepts, things that are that are beyond, say, a child's grasp.
Correct. Yeah, they definitely were not. Again, it said for mature readers, but not necessarily always because it dealt with content that was particularly like nudity or even profanity. It was more of just the high concept of stuff and things like that. They were edgier. They dealt with different type of violence and things like that and tragedy. And I think that is an element that some of the modern comics are obsessed with trying to bring into tights and capes. And that's part of what's been their downfall is because they're not even talented enough writers to do that, let alone trying to do it and meld it within that world. We only see that with, the likes of Alan Moore's and Grant Morrison's, and there's very few people that are able to kind of meld those type of things together. And what Neil Gaiman did here was he used something I thought was this book always has stood out to me for that reason. I remember reading it and thinking to myself, wow, this was really. I remember reading it twice, like really back to back, like really read it and then read it again. Like, am I reading what? Let it really sink in. You've got a good book when you kind of like want to really kind of soak it up and take it. Like you said before, when you chose this spectacular Spider-Man book, it's because it's one that really struck you to think differently or feel differently. And I think that's the beauty of this medium.
Well, and again, just by happenstance, again, my friend, we happen to connect with our choices because both of them deal with people and concepts of, how you change your circumstances, You know, in the Beatles, he's looking for a way out of his life of crime. In this one, the cat's looking for a way to change the horrors, I guess you could call it, of their existence and the way they have to live under the humans. And so it's kind of like, you know, both are talking about, like, you know, the concept of, like, you know, how there are things you can control and things you can't. You know, mine focused on stuff more that it probably is in your control. You know, if you don't want to be a criminal, stop doing crime. You know, just stop doing those things. You know, it may be tough times ahead for you because you were a criminal, but you can stop being a criminal. That's in your control. You can change that. Whereas in this here, it's much less so, where you can change, like, what the cats want to change. It's much harder to change something like that.
Right. Can they get 1,000 cats to dream and make it a reality? Yes. Right. So it's just a fascinating concept. And again, finding innocent motivations, right? You can see this as, you know, the daughter, a wife, friend, someone has a kitten, it's there dreaming. I wonder what cats dream like. Next thing you know, Neil Gaiman's mind starts piecing together this type of story into his mythology that he was creating so brilliantly with Sandman, which was, again, ironically, doesn't get the credit it deserves from that boom of the late 80s and early 90s, because it definitely drove a lot of people to comic shops and grabbed people that were not traditional comic book readers. Like, those were not Batman, Superman, X-Men, Spawn readers, but there was a huge movement on the Vertigo side of things that you saw that came out of, like, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, Grant Morrison on Animal Man and Invisibles. You saw it with Sandman, which led into Death and Book of Magic and Dreaming and stuff like that. That stuff went on for, like, years.
Well,
like,
that's what Vertigo
huge.
did. It kind of changed people's, like, before Vertigo, most people's concept of comics was as kids' fare. This is stuff meant for children. It's guys in tights, or maybe it's like a war comic, but it's not very bloody or anything. Whereas Vertigo came in and says it kind of ushered in that whole era of what we call now the graphic novel. You know, where it's like, it's something that you take seriously. It's a serious story with serious concepts, with things that you know, people who aren't children can really sink their metaphorical, you know, intellectual teeth into. And
more literary depth. Yeah,
exactly. And it stepped it up from what, you know, just the mere kids' fare that everyone always thought comics has been.
Well, I've always talked about Sandman, being a fan of it, folks. And again, make sure you're checking out James's channel, and all the links are there for you to check out his art and things that he does, and he's very passionate about as well. And if you wanted to have somebody on your show, or you want to reach out to somebody who knows a lot about comics and that kind of stuff, make sure you do that and connect with him as well.
And in fact, I want to take a quick moment here and just let people know that I'm trying to get a new feature on my channel here called the Sequential Art Showcase. So if you're someone who has some comic book art and you wouldn't mind sharing it and showing it off on a live stream, hit me up, because I'm trying to you know, bring a little more spotlight to the actual details and the actual workings of comic art. And so if you want to join me in that adventure, please hit me up, and we'll start working that out, because it's something I definitely want to get into this year, and see what we can do with that, because I don't really see a lot of people talking specifically about comic book art. They may talk about comics, they may talk about, you know, stuff around it, but to focus on the art itself, I don't really see too much on it. So I want to try to get into some of that and give a little something different to people.
Yeah, I still think people view original art and things, pieces like that, to be way out of their price range, when it's not always. I think that's the problem. People don't understand that the quantity of what had been generated, you know, 20, 25 pages per book, times how many years, times how many books. I mean, the 90s, you're talking about like 100 books at Marvel. I mean, it's just, they have to know that so much of that it's in circulation, that there is a lot of opportunities there to have something that's kind of really cool and interesting for a fairly reasonable price. So there are expensive ones, of course, but there are also things that are not.
Well, say the same thing about the comics themselves. There are expensive ones, but then like the ones we chose here, ones that aren't so expensive that you can enjoy and get a lot of great storytelling and adventure from.
Sure. Absolutely agree. Well, it's great to have James on with me doing this. I hope you guys are enjoying our comic book conversation as well. And please stay tuned for more. We'll be here again. So thanks for watching, everybody.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
America's #1 comic book, thanks to you. So I started this company to make the toys that you asked for.
Spawn, Violator.
I hear the competition's flying around. They could be any place.
They're cool, awesome.
Tremor, Overkill, Medieval Spawn,
and they come with comics.
Nice toys, kids.
Nice try, guys.
Spawn from From Todd Toys, we're out to plaster the competition.
Hey, this is Pops, and speaking of Spawn, make sure you join me on Saturdays. I'm doing a rewatch of the Spawn animated series over on HBO. It is raw, it is gritty, but it is also awesome. Make sure you do that every Saturday. They drop at 9:30, and if you've missed an episode or two, feel free to catch those videos and catch up. I'd love to see you there, see your comments, see your thoughts. Maybe you've never seen it or you want to watch it again. I'd love to hear from you.
Saturday mornings flashed into the action zone with the all-new, totally awesome, super-powered Ultimate Action Team, Wildcats, today on CBS.
Mattel introduces the Battlestar Galactica collection. You can imagine the colonial warrior against the evil Cylon Centurions.
Cylon Centurions ready? Check. Activate eye scanner. Energize pulsator. Aim laser pistol. On target. Colonial warrior changing scanner to laser. Get it.
Each figure sold separately. Batteries not included. Cylon Centurion and Colonial Warrior from the Battlestar Galactica collection. New from Mattel.
All right, everybody. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying our comic book talk. It is always a fun time to talk comic books with everyone. I'm going to try to quickly hit on a couple other things here real quickly, get some reviews in. I don't really have a desire to do like a major review on it. I may clip this later for like a little short video or something like that. Just kind of put a pin in it. But there were a few things I jotted down, and then I do have a couple of members that I've already reached out to there to come up in here and try to show off some of their recent purchases, maybe some recent acquisitions, or something that they're actually enjoying as well. Just want to give you kind of as much of a variety as possible. And for those of you who don't know, yes, there will not be a comic book roundtable tonight on Loki's channel. I was going to be promoting that as well, so go right into this to more comic book talk, but he had to cancel that show for different reasons. So this is the comic book talk, but which means we could go a little bit longer. We won't be stepping on any toes or anything like that. So first off, I just kind of want to just briefly touch on the situation with Punisher. Like it's just so incredibly frustrating how much Marvel just hates Punisher, right? So let me run through the last few months. So this is Bounding into Comics. This is some comments made by Chuck Dixon about Punisher. He's talking a little bit about their destruction of Punisher, looking like a fool. So you can see this is the one version. This is Jason Aaron's run where they change the chest, so it's not a skull. They make this crazy looking. I don't even know what to say. This thing. He's got a sword instead of guns. It's completely nuts, right? And it's this iconic skull logo is taken away. Arsenal firearms and our explosives are gone. And then it's this backstory has been changed. So now it's like the marriage was falling apart. They were going to get a divorce. It's just a mess. Chuck was like, no, this is crazy. So he has a great quote down here. He talks about it. He says, I don't know who to feel sorry for more the last couple of weeks. And he was talking about that situation with the Blue Jays player at the time and the Punisher logo thing. But Frank Castle, we find out only now he complete redo his origin. They turned him into a fool. I mean, he looks like a fool. He's a complete nut job. They've done everything they could to destroy the character. And quite frankly, Marvel's never liked Punisher. They're always looking for a reason to get rid of him, and now they've done it. And I don't blame Jason Aaron other than the fact that he's following orders. Well, I do, because I could see Jason Aaron being a big enough name that he would have pitched this. So he thinks it's editorial driven. An individual writer who doesn't decide to do this, it comes from upstairs. We're embarrassed and we're going to get rid of the Punisher. Fair enough. So Chuck's going to blame upstairs. I'm going to blame everybody. The thing is that they're not only attack Frank Castle, they attack the people that like to read Punisher. They're all idiots and troglodytes. Okay. Then Chuck had gone a little further with these sort of remarks and sharing a little bit more about this as well. Let me get to that one. Yep, this one here. This is a couple months later. This is kind of an older story. He explains why Marvel hates the Punisher. He kind of comes down here. I found this is very good. This is actually from his Ask Chuck Dixon series, which, by the way, if you're not checking that out, man, track that down. Especially the newer ones, because he actually created chapters. So, if it's not a question or something that you're really like totally into, it's easy to just kind of ping to the next one. I find that exceptionally easy to navigate through. Anyway, this one he talks about why they hate. He goes, they don't like him for the same reason that DC doesn't like Guy Gardner, and fans like the Punisher for the same reason they like Guy Gardner. Most comic book characters are either brainiacs, mutants, scientists, whatever. But there are a few superheroes that have blue collar origins. Frank Castle and Guy Gardner are blue collar superheroes. They're average guys driven to extremes. A lot of readers respond to this because a lot of readers aren't brainiacs, mutants, or scientists. They're driving a truck, stocking shelves, working for a paycheck. People respond to these characters because of those origins, because they have blue collar origins. They're written correctly. They say stuff, they do stuff other comic book characters won't. They don't have the same mores, the same code. He goes, as far as superheroes don't kill, Wolverine certainly kills. We see other comic book heroes, superheroes who kill. It's hard to believe Captain America didn't kill a lot of Nazis. He didn't take them all prisoners. So this is a misnomer. To single out Frank Castle because he kills people, if that's their argument, it's an inaccurate one. So I don't know. Do you guys agree with that assessment? I think that's a pretty good, and I think that's also a very good thing. They literally cannot stand sort of like the normal people, like us normal people. They just don't like us. That's all there is to it. So hey ZBR, good to see you. If I, sorry if I missed you coming in during, so James and I do a little pre-record on that. So with my comic talks, a lot of times I will do the pre-record. It allows me to do a little bit of the editing with it. It allows for a little bit more flexibility with some scheduling stuff that I have going on in my personal life. I did like to tag on commercials. I've had a great response from you guys, loving some of the OG commercials. So hopefully it'll bring back some memories from time to time. Next up will be Angry Canadian. He'll be on with me doing a little comic talk as well. That will probably be next week. Yes, next week is that one as well. So same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll start the premiere. Then we'll do some reviews, and then we'll kind of go into maybe some show and tell and stuff like that. Because I don't have any of my show and tell ready to go. So just to close out my Punisher part here, this is the newest thing on the Punisher. If you guys didn't know this, I just used Bounding because it was easier just to find them all in one place. I read these comics and they're just unbearable. So basically, the new Punisher is not Frank. So Frank's missing. What they're doing now is they got this guy named Joe. This is his. So they didn't really bring the skull back. They kind of created this armored chest plate with some lights and stuff. And then they have him. Here it goes. It's an action-packed Punisher series, blah, blah, blah. But basically, Joe Garrison is on a path of vengeance, whatever. So they discussed this. So this is what's interesting is, and the reason I wanted to quote this was because they're telling the quiet part out loud. They do this on purpose. This is a quote from the writer and saying that I think it's a degree of finding one's identity in Joe's overarching story. While this character has a particular set of skills, the through line of the story is about Joe coming to terms with the Punisher mantle. See how it's just a mantle? It's just a thing. It's not like it's Frank Castle. It's just everybody can be Punisher. So a whole bunch of Punishers. So then, regardless of your take on the Punisher mantle, because I do think there's some core traits that embody any character who takes on the Punisher's mantle. Grittiness, relentless, also the all too human vulnerabilities that enhance the stakes, balanced by deadly skills, arsenal weapons, willingness to sacrifice himself that let the Punisher take on enemies way outside of his weight class, even if it means taking some serious hits along the way. And then it kind of goes on a little bit, but then it kind of touches on his other agenda. Let's see. It's down here where it talks about how the part of the goal was to have him taking orders from a woman. So it was about trying to subjugate him more. So it talks here a little bit about killing brand new bad guys. Joe won't be killing some very deserving people, but as he'll be the first to tell you, there are some punishments that are far worse than death. So again, they're still shying away from who the Punisher really, really is. And then I'll talk about his handler here. This is at AAA. It's Joe's handler from S.H.I.E.L.D. She serves as the woman in the chair. So again, this is how they do. This is how they approach everything with characters they don't like. So absolutely just horrible stuff. So James says Dixon's pretty much on the money. The comic elites hate the common man. I think all of the elites do. I think it's not a comic book thing. I think it's just an elite thing. So the new series is the Poussoir. Yes, it could be. Russell Long's in the house. Hey, brother. It's absolutely despicable what they've done to Frank Castle. New Punisher is worse than the new Coke. Good reference, Dwayne. That's OG right there. I think it's interesting that at the same time Neil Gaiman was showing the Route 7 communist propaganda, cultural Marxism. If you completely rewrite the story, that it starts with you. Yeah. That's good. Well, with me, got one of my members here. Somebody's been with me basically from the get-go. Have him come in, show off some stuff that he has going on too. I have a couple more reviews and stuff I'll pull up while we're chatting, and we can kind of do that as well. And again, just try to talk comics with you guys, show you some stuff. That was my negative hit piece as far as comic book stuff goes. So most of the other stuff I'm pretty sure is in the positive recommend category. So that's kind of where the rest of the show will go. So if that's not your thing, I don't want to tell you. I got to try to find some decent stuff for some of you guys. So with that, let me welcome in Matt, the Thad that shouldn't be, the Unbearable 73. How are you, my brother?
Hey, Pops, how you doing on this fine January evening on the East Coast?
Listen, I am blessed to be able to talk comic books, be able to find kindred spirits like yourself who enjoy nerddom, and this wonderful chat just full of great people, and be able to get time with James to talk comic books with him as well. So thanks for hanging out.
You need to package up some of that Florida weather and mail it north to me. You know?
Yeah, there's some crazy weather up north, guys. I don't know what to tell you guys. That's nuts. We've had freezing weather here, so that's how cold it is everywhere, man. When it gets into Florida, man, it's really cold.
Yeah, I mean it's got the People's Republic of New Jersey and the frigid Siberia of North America.
So what is something that you might have handy, or something that you're reading, or what something you could show off for these good folks? So listen, not everything is bad. We have to find some good things out there.
There are some good modern stuff. But I said, because I do have access to some of my collection, even though it's all stories in boxes and whatever. I can get some of these. So I lucked out with one box, had a bunch of great stuff in it, right? So I will show off. You might remember. I also took the opportunity to rebag and reboard them because people, I don't know if you can see the difference on the camera. Like, this is what they look like 30 years ago. Like, you eventually should swap them out with newer bags and boards. You know what I mean? But anyway, so this is the original Marvel's Transformers series from the 80s. It's the crossover with Spider-Man. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man in the black costume outside of Spider-Man 258, where it appeared for the first time. Right? And this is the best Transformers comic series ever, right?
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
They really are. And by the way, folks, if you don't know, what you would want to do is you would want to ask for get bigger bags. So ask for like Silver Age bags or something like that, and get Modern Age boards. So you have a little bit of wiggle room in there. It's not super, super tight. And just change them out, just change them out. Make them look nice. Enjoy the presentation.
And older fans would be able to tell this, but newer ones might not. And it's one of my pet peeves about the comic industry, and I think why it's one of the reasons, the second biggest reason why it's suffering. If you look at the cover of these two comics, yes, they're different issues, but there's one particular stylistically different on one of them. One of them has that barcode. That's the newsstand edition, right? And comic books little kids with their $10 a week allowances used to go to the newsstand and grab, this was a 75-cent comic. You can grab quite a few of these off the newsstands, and now if comics are on newsstands at all, there's like a little rack with like 5 comic books the owner reads and says, "I'll put in my store." You know what I mean? Like it's, or there's some stupid hunting comic book,
Yeah, it's become a major letdown. Let me get a couple comments here real quick.
I'll show
folks. Dwayne's pointing out, Punisher, Mike Barron, Chuck Dixon, Garth Ennis, the gold standard. Absolutely, all of that stuff's great stuff, folks. Read that stuff for sure. You don't know cold unless you've been to the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Oh boy. Here we talk about the weather, and then Gaiman's cat story is Offense. I think it's all an animated one. The rest of the Netflix shows. Yeah. So cool.
So more into artwork. So, the 80s to me is the peak comic book era, and the writer on this, let's give a credit where credit is due. My last issue show off, by the way, Pops is pure gold. We have Bill Mantold as the plot. Ralph Macchio. Remember how he used to get constantly saying he's not the movie actor, and he's the editor, Ralph Macchio.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see the creators on the bottom. Always like to show off who the creators are. Yeah. Anyway, and our artist was our penciler was Frank Springer rather. Kim DeMolder on inks. Man, just the '80s when Jim Shooter ran Marvel, it was the best thing in comics ever. Right?
ZBR says I managed to pick up a Doctor Who Time Crash set for £30. These are actually sold for upwards of $250. Wow, what a great steal!
Yeah.
Good job, ZBR. Enjoy that. Hope it works out well for you, man. That's awesome.
So my
Everything was better than the '80s, indeed. I think we agree with that. Hey, Bobby, I look forward to that energy on the universe. They're starting with the transfer. Yeah, the Energon is the Transformers GI Joe crossover they have going right now. And I actually do. I'm with you, Bobby. I am loving it. I told my wife it's the first time I was excited about a new. I mean, I'm talking about excited. Like I was actually checking my phone when it would populate. I've been checking all day today for Cobra Commander because I can't get over to the store to go pick up my physical copy yet. And I want to read it. I got to read it. I know Bobby's already got his. So. Yeah. And yeah, Frank Springer's Invaders book. Yeah, good stuff.
And also Kirkman's Transformers universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe and the Void. That's the best modern comic version of Transformers. You know.
Yeah, that's the stuff I think everybody's talking about. Is the stuff that they're doing over there right now. Yeah. It's been great stuff over there. Skybound's working with good stuff.
What I don't know everyone has heard yet though is Larry Hama is going to continue his original G.I. Joe series under that imprint.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Also from the '80s, after Crisis on Infinite Earths and John Byrne rebooted Superman Man of Steel, this is John Byrne's Superman series. This is issue number 3. This is one of my favorite of the I guess post-Crisis Superman covers ever. Darkseid was good. Darkseid. This is right before what was it, like 10 years where DC started farming out Darkseid before Grant Morrison had enough and retconned all the losses away, you know. So this is Darkseid basically with the new gods and dominating Superman, all that. That's issue 3. We'll go in reverse order because this is issues 1 and 2. I believe Byrne wrote and did some of the artwork in this, but Austin did most of it, you know. So John Byrne was both an artist and a writer. Now I got from the first set of comic books I owned from my grandma. Okay, she had like her comic collection. I think I told you, Pops. Her mother kept throwing them away, but otherwise she would have the first 400 or 500 issues of Action Comics and Superman. Right. So what wound up in the '70s, what she had left was a box of maybe 50 comic books or whatever it was that was sitting gathering dust in the closet. And in there this is one of my favorite comics from that. This is the first.
Oh wow! Yeah, New Gods. Yeah.
This is the first time Flash crossed over with the New Gods.
That's a fun cover too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. It's not in the greatest shape internally, so I don't really pull it out to look at it. So I'm not going to show that one off. But I will. The cover itself was great. You know, and this is written by Jerry Conway.
Yeah, it's probably Jerry Conway book. I think somebody even said that for sure. Yeah.
Yep. And then this is the set. This is my fifth. So my favorite things in comic books, right? In terms of a full completed series, is Mike Carey's Lucifer. In terms of a mini series, is All Star Superman. In terms of a shorter like arc in a comic book series, you have the Craven saga from Amazing Spider-Man. Well, from the Spider-Man to all 3 of them, right? But my favorite thing in comic books, right, like is Walt Simonson's run on Thor, and this is my singular favorite comic book of all time.
Wow!
I have another one of these that's signed by Walt Simonson with the verification authenticator or whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel safe pulling this one out. You know, it's like.
Matt ZBR asked if you have any Doctor Who figures.
I have a couple of Doctor Who. Like I do have if you could see my desk more clearly, I have a TARDIS lunchbox and a TARDIS mug. I have a couple more Doctor Who things kind of packed away. Like I would say about 65% of my stuff is still packed away because this apartment is small. And I moved here in 2019. I don't know if I was planning on living here that long, you know. But let me see if I can open this up. So finds a couple cool pages right here. And this comic book is amazing for a couple of reasons, right? So when Marvel brought Thor in, they kind of took mythological Thor and changed it a bit. Obviously, he had blonde hair or whatever, right? And then they added all the space god stuff to them because that the mythology of it, right? But then one thing Simonson did, like in this particular story, was start pulling back in a lot of the Norse kind of like stories in here, like the shape changing stuff and all that. And this particular story in the Norse tales of Ragnarok, when Asgard is facing its final battle against chaos, so right, Thor, after he slays the Fenrir, has to fight the Midgard serpent, and he wins, but he's poisoned by the serpent's venom and dies in taking 9 steps, right? Well, Thor here has been cursed with immortality by Hela under Simonson's run. He can't die. But the reason where his indestructible armor is, and it set these events off when he forged that armor, because it shook the heavens when he forged the Asgardian armor, is he said he can't heal either. So he's basically wearing a giant version of almost like a giant version of Mjolnir as the armor, right? And so he says, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm going to take that Midgard serpent out when I can't be killed.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And this is Thor outthinking his enemies, And let's see if I can get the coolest page here. This is when Thor does. He uses his death strike, which is ultimate God Force bless. It's even more powerful than the thing you almost killed Galactus with, and the thing he hit Exeter, the Executioner, with, and Jormungand does his death strike, and this is like this battle is not taking place in conventional reality because the forces would have destroyed the Earth, So it's just such an amazing thing, and to see Simonson get back to it, and this is and it's like such an amazing issue. When I read this, cause I was kind of reading Thor on and off. I wasn't a fan before Simonson. I mean, I liked Thor as a concept, like some issues. Like I have What If and Thor Annual 11, which my grandma actually got. I think was when introduced Atom the God Eater, Demogorgon the God Eater, and that's an amazing issue. But then Walt Simonson's run on Thor made me such a fan. Thor's my number 2 guy now after Spider-Man. That I always like mythological Thor, the mythology of it. That I went back and I bought all the way back to like I have all but like the first 30 or so issues of Thor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, and
I want to let Blackjack make a comment. Where did you get your G.I. Joe #9 from? The first comic you bought was G.I. Joe #9. Where'd you buy it from? Do you remember that? Like, was it like a convenience store, local comic shop? Whatever. Just curious. So, all right. Well, let me put a pause on you, Matt. Here, 1 second. We'll do. I want to pull one up here for you. I don't know if you even heard of this. I had not heard about this. It came through a recommendation through Wes. He was doing a stream. He talked about how good this one was. It's called Skeeters. Skeeters is it's a Mad Cave book. So this is like indie publishing.
Oh, Mad Cave.
Yeah, Mad Cave. And it basically is sort of a horror comedy. Kelly Williams is the artist, and then of course Bob France and Kevin Koufe is doing the story. And basically, you just have this sort of like there's mosquitoes. So it centers around this police officer, and she's talking about how she has a crappy job, crappy situation, whatever. Meanwhile, there's this lab and an outbreak, and they're doing this experimentation. And basically, they're it's almost got like a Men in Black type things overseeing the lab, and then the mosquitoes have to be dealt with, and they have all these dead bodies, and they have to eliminate everybody so they can't get an outbreak. So they do like the chemical release to do everything. This is their equivalent of like the bunny suits to go in and clean up the hazmat stuff on it. But here's where it turns into a horror comic, because obviously the dead bodies are in the back of this van, gets pulled over by police. And during this back and forth conversation, they keep cutting away that the mosquitoes are basically just like working their way outside of the dead bodies. So this is if you can run across this, you don't have a problem having something that's kind of like lighthearted horror. Like just it's supposed to be like on the edge of getting more, kind of like zany. Like they're killer
Evil
mosquitoes.
Dead.
What do you want from me, right?
Evil Dead.
It's killer mosquitoes. What do you want? I actually thought that was a very clever take on things. And they just have one or two elements. You can see how it starts to break out, all the blood dripping off of everything and things like that. And they're just having their conversation. They're completely oblivious that all of this is actually transpiring in the back of the van. So, and of course, then all heck breaks loose and chaos starts going nuts. They drives the van over the side and into a swamp. So now they're just going to go everywhere. And that's how it infects this dog. And you have this like the hunter sees kind of like what's left and things like that. I don't want to keep going. I'd rather get people's feedback if they do check it out for themselves.
Hold up there. I have something to say about that, but just to finish on Thor, run. His collection of Thor was the first Thor Marvel Masterworks. So if you ever want to read it all, you can get it in that, and that's a great format. But on this issue, so you helped me actually get the first 2 issues of this. This is also from Mad Cave, right? This is a devil that wears my face.
Yeah, I figured I was doing a good segue for you to get to that.
Yeah. So this is I'm obviously my grandma got me into a lot of stuff, including like Italian horror films, what we call the giallo horror films. This reminds me of a giallo horror film, right? This is the premise is that a priest has kind of failed at exorcism and got possessed by the thing he was trying to drive out of someone else, right? But conversely, he got control of the body the demon had been inhabiting. And it's kind of like the battle back and forth between them trying to deal with the Vatican being taken over by the demon and all that, because it was a priest now. It reminds me of the giallo horror films, right? And one thing I love about what Mad Cow does, if you call what you had back up for a second, Pops, it's a little detail, but call skeeters back up, Pops.
Oh, sorry.
So a lot of horror comics, the art has a lot of shadows in it. Like you can see when they draw, there's a lot of shadows in there. So that's going to highlight the horror of it, right? And what a lot of them unfortunately do is you see the white borders, they make them black, which make it blend in and hard to sort of focus on the imagery itself in terms of the effect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But Mad Cow has those white borders, which very well accentuate the shadows in the art. And it's this little thing that maybe you don't always notice, but one of the things that comic books really, where they're best at is that they're immersive. You know what I mean? They're immersive. They pull you into the artwork, so the story you're reading starts playing in your mind.
Yep.
And so those white borders help, like I said, accentuate the shadows in the artwork that's in the horror. So
right, because again, if when it's all of the black background, you don't get immersed, you don't get sucked in as much.
Yeah.
Your brain and your eyes are not effectuating the details in the same way.
Yeah.
This is the same problem I have with some of the digital art. You've heard me complain endlessly about the digital art, where it's so plain and generic looking. Sometimes they have characters that don't have faces, things like that. It's like your brain doesn't engage it. Your brain will not just immerse itself. Just won't do it.
Yeah, that's actually my only complaint about these is that on Skeeters they have all that nice white borders, but here they want the black borders, and it's not. It's still great read, but my nostalgia carries it more than it, you know what I mean. But it's still a great read.
Yeah.
And then on the digital art thing, my only sort of comment on it is I blame the artist more than the technology. Like I think digital art makes a lot of subpar, lazy artists get a lot more spread because it's easier to do the art. You know what I mean?
Well, there's people doing digital art properly and it looks good. Like I don't blame the technology. I blame the laziness. So Blackjack says he bought that book at the 7-Eleven spinner rack. Saw a commercial for the comic. Play with G.I. Joe. That is the best. Blackjack. That is the story. That's where we all were. It's like a 7-Eleven, a grocery store. It was the tie-ins and the merch with all the toys and the cartoons and all that. And it's just, there's the barcode. Yeah.
Every one of my comics from the 80s, except for some of the Conan stuff, which you couldn't get in the newsstand, has a newsstand barcode. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thor, Marvel, DC, whatever. You know. The news.
So since we're bashing on DC, I thought I would try to give somebody a recommend for something that is just it's sort of not my thing, but I get it. So it's 17 and older. It's a Peacemaker book called Peacemaker Tries Hard. So here's my qualifications. If you like the Peacemaker show, you're okay with the antics of a John Cena, like an idiot Peacemaker, and the crass cussing and profanity, shenanigans, and all of that. If that's your thing and you can have a laugh, Peacemaker Tries Hard is for you. It's insane. It's completely unhinged. It is nuts what they're able to do. It's just a mini series, which is part of what I think the DC should be doing, is stop doing all these reboots and just do mini series. It literally feels just like an extension of the show with the stupidity of things. All the gags. He obviously looks like John Cena.
Who's the artist?
Let me go back up, make sure I get it right. Steve Pugh.
Because that art is actually fairly decent. As far, it looks a little almost 80s or 90s throwback. You know.
No, it's fine. I don't have any complaints about this book. This was a recommend from Gray and some others. His back and forth with Waller. Again, this Peacemaker Tries Hard literally is almost like a season 1.5 of the TV show. It's completely the same type of gags and silliness and over the top. And so this is the cameos of other characters because he wants to have a party and a get together and they don't want to be a part of things. They don't actually like him. It's all of the rudeness and silliness that you would expect. So, I can just tell you guys, it's completely nuts, and it's also a lot of fun. It's not exactly my thing. Like I read it because it came so highly recommended to me, but at the same time, this is not.
So to Dwayne out there, this is not Fin Fang Foom. That's a different character. This is actually Jormungand, the Midgard Serpent.
Oh right, I see the comment.
Yeah.
So anyways, I want to throw that out there as an option for you guys too. Again, this is not for everyone. It is definitely an adult comic, but if you are into that type of stuff, that's your thing. It made you laugh. I was kind of mixed on the Peacemaker show. Like I get it. I understand why some people enjoy it. It personally just got too tedious. I didn't find it quite as funny, and I thought it was drug out, just like most modern content is. But it could be. And again, whenever we talk about how bad the main two are, I think it is only fair to give the Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh some credit. This one's not terrible. Like we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's a little mini series. It's not like it's going to be groundbreaking or change the world or anything like that. But it was not the worst thing in the world for sure. So
yeah, I only don't buy DC just because of the woke stuff. It's Marvel I boycott because of one more day and Brand New Day for 20 years now, 30 years now, whatever. But DC just there's very little of it that I've really found wanting to read from them. And like usually I read the Lucifer series that Gaiman put out a couple of years ago. It was okay. It was good. It wasn't great. It was good. Some of the other the Sandman universe thing that Gaiman's been doing with them, that stuff was okay, but their mainstream superhero stuff, they now who are they destroying? There was another character that got destroyed recently. They do it every 3 months. There's another character getting destroyed in DC. You know what I mean? Like they retcon the character has to become gay or become trans or become a traitor.
I don't want to beat the drum of how bad it all is. But so let me just tell you, if you haven't read, this is one I would recommend: Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo.
Yeah,
Mark Silvestri wrote it and drew it. So this is probably the best DC thing that's been done in the last couple of years. It's just phenomenal from start to finish. There's also like a black and white version of this. But yeah, this is Silvestri at his best. He obviously totally gets Joker and Batman. He's an OG creator. So yeah, if you have not seen this is something I can definitely recommend. It's called Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. Again, mini series. I think it is 6 issues. Let me scroll to the top. think it's a 6 issue. No, 7. I thought it was 6. Anyway, no, it's fun. It's just got craziness and stuff. It makes you want more. Which again, this is one of the things that I have to give credit to that Transformers and GI Joe thing I was talking about earlier. Is the thing that got me is I finished the book and it makes me want another book, and that is when you know you're doing a comic book right. When you're not betraying characters and you're just you got me in the world and you want me to buy the next book.
Now, if you want a superhero recommendation, I bought the early issues in trade. I have called more trades coming. Dark Horse.
Oh yeah, Radiant Black. I did a video on Radiant Black. Yeah,
this is their massive verse. It's Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Radiant Red, another issue. I'm working my way through the back issues with the trades because they're just too expensive to buy individuals. But I'm not made of money, unfortunately. It's like,
well, they are very pricey, and the thing is, it's just a smaller thing. It's just not a massive circulation. So
but it's really good.
Hard to find.
Yeah, it's really good. And so
I just heard somebody talking about this too, where because of the cover prices of things and because of the state of the industry, you have too many customers that are apprehensive. They don't want to take a flyer on just some random thing, even when the store might be telling you that it's good. So then you end up with like the rarity of things, not because it's rare because a whole bunch of people bought them. It's just there aren't very many of them. And I think Radiant Black is in that category. It's a very good comic. It's very solid, but I don't think enough people knew about it. It didn't get ordered in enough volume, and it's just sort of kind of been sucked up. Now, if you are a publisher out there, let me just give my soapbox.
Excuse me.
For publishers out there, when that is the case, then just do a second printing and just change the cover. That's actually the way you make some money, because if you have a collector who's really into it, they'll buy the second copy because they like the different cover. But then you have a second printing and people can get back into it. So that's my soapbox for the moment. So,
yeah, and I got something I found. I would order 6 issues of it, but I couldn't find. Unfortunately, couldn't find one of them. I'm sharing this up there, Pops. This is from Scout Comics. It's called Kitsune, and it's in the genre of the kind of the animal war, like ninja martial arts or whatever. Except it's actually about a kitsune, a Japanese fox yokai spirit, who's a samurai. And
cool.
Yeah. So I found all but one of the issues. It's a mini series. On the place I go, Things from Another World, they were half price. So I said, let me for $2 a pop or whatever. But I couldn't find issue, I think 2. I went to a place you found for me on eBay. He doesn't have it. So before I can read it, I got to find that one missing issue. But the artwork, I've seen some previews of it in like reviews and whatever. It looks really good. I like the fairy tales. Like, I'm not a big fan of the animal, like that whole genre of animals as people comics, like, you know what I mean? But when they go mythological, like the kitsune are actually a Japanese yokai, you know what I mean? Then I really kind of get into the story, you know what I mean? And
that was my thing with Stray Dogs. Did you see my video, or have you ever seen Stray Dogs?
Yeah, you and I were talking about it on the stream of maybe a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, and it was kind of like I kind of have mixed feelings. I don't really care for that, humanized. What's the term for it? Anthropomorphize.
Yeah, anthropomorphize or anthropomorphication.
I don't care for that very much, but it seemed like the idea of the comic book was working, because I felt like I was in Lady and the Tramp. Like I felt like I was in a Lady and the Tramp horror comic. I just don't have faith that they're going to adapt it properly, because it's going to be one of those. It's just like, does that translate well? And with Kitsune, this seems a little different, because this is almost like what did we grow up on? Usagi Yojimbo, right? It's okay, fine. I'll just go with that. Yeah, I'm cool. Let's just do that. That's kind of fun. Ninja Turtles, I'm good. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just have stuff that
Usagi Yojimbo, one of the Japanese moon goddesses, is a giant rabbit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Princess Kaguya and the Moon, that's a Japanese folktale. She's a giant rabbit. And that's where the character Kaguya from Naruto comes from. That fairy tale. And I'm okay with anthropomorphication used in a targeted, cool way. Like, you ever read Mouse, Maus?
Oh, of course, that's a classic.
Yeah. Basically, a Jewish writer and artist used
it's a Holocaust
mice to
story.
tell. Yeah, that was great. I also liked some of the humor, like the animals as humor, like the old Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew or Peter Porker. You know, I was always cool with that. But I dislike it when it's just spam titles. Like, you know, you remember after the Ninja Turtles came out, it was always like mononuclear ferret commando apricot.
Oh yeah. Those are just knockoff versions.
They just keep throwing them out there, like just throw a bunch just to make an acronym. Just throw a bunch of words together, pick an animal, and make them mutants or something like that. And I was like, you know, I like when they're tied into something, or if it's not tied into something, when they're used very creatively, like the way he did with Mouse. You know.
Yeah. So we're getting closer to the top of the hour. Because YouTube does allow us now as creators, we're able to give out memberships. I don't get to pick and choose who gets them, but I am allowed to give them out for 30 days. So I'm going to gift out some memberships. So if you have not ever, just click that little green gift box at the top of things. Make sure that you qualify it, and then hopefully you'll be gifted a membership. So hopefully it'll tell me everybody. Okay, Jacob Ironside, Penny, Pat S., James, Sequential Treasures, and Awesome One. Well, congratulations to all of you for being a Pops Modic, being a member as well. The one thing that is probably the biggest benefit to that is there are some members-only clips and some segments that are out there for you guys. But more importantly, I think than anything else is you get early access to everything. So as I finish up videos, I get all my different dynamics together. Some of them are very raw, where you don't have any description in there yet, but you at least get a chance to get ahead of the curve. You don't have to worry about notification bells. You don't have to worry about. So I've usually got a day or two of content in there, and in some cases a week or two, depending on what it is. So that's one of your things, is being a member. Get in there and tool around a little bit. Make sure that you can get ahead, leave comments, and interact with me the best you can, and we'll go from there. Probably do more like this, where I will do a regular show or have some sort of content that I can pre-record, because right now there are some issues with having a studio space. So that's why I'm behind an avatar, and that's why some stuff got pre-recorded. So then we'll just tack on some member time, if you will, so folks can come up in here and things like that. So that's kind of where we are.
One more comic can show off, Pop.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah, because I couldn't do mine. Mine are in my camera. I can't do that right now.
So I'm a fan of a movie called Hawk the Slayer from the early '80s, one of the great all-time fantasy films, in my view.
That's a deep reference, man. Oh man, that's a deep reference.
Well,
yeah,
that whole British fantasy films from the early '80s, Hawk the Slayer, Dragon Slayer, there's a bunch of stuff in the early Kroll, yeah. So what about, and this actually got me back to collecting comics again, right? Was Garth Ennis and Henry Flint did a Hawk the Slayer miniseries, a sequel to it, right? This is a cover. This is a variant cover. This is what most of the covers tend to look like, and and Eternal Art looks a lot like this. Okay. And it came out from 2000 AD Comics with Judge Dredd.
Yep,
right?
yep.
And there's such a good company that, because it's basically you have to airmail to get them, right? Because it's overseas. Because they don't, not all this stuff makes it to Amazon or whatever. I'll open up one of them to look at in a second. Is a couple issues got lost in the mail. I emailed them as well. Don't worry, they literally type, "Don't worry, bloke, we'll wipe it off and send you free. Let's send them again." I was like, okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. But show up.
And man, it's a fortune to ship overseas now. So good on them. That's very generous of them.
Each of these came attached to their regular monthly. I forgot what it's called. So you would get it like in the big pack,
yeah.
And now if you want to read it and don't want to get the original comics, you can get the trade paperback version of it on Amazon, right? But obviously, if you've never seen Hawk the Slayer, and also if you watch my Friday Night, you see I always go over the construction of comic books, right? This thing is put together like a rock. You know what I mean? It's so stiff, it's difficult to open unless you really work at it. Right? There's the inside.
That's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
I don't normally go for Garth Ennis because I think he's a jerk in terms of being a writer. but in this case, he respected the original material. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I like a lot of his stuff. I know. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I know they're jerks. I get it. But I really do love a lot of his stuff.
I don't mean his personality. I mean, a lot of times he writes stuff and the characters work out to be jerks.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. He respected the source material with this, and I gained respect to him for that.
What is your collective status on Speed Force? Don't get him started, Copa.
There you go. That was for you, Copa.
James, I need to get your address because I need to figure out something. First off, what do you send someone like James for birthday? I mean, I don't even know what to send somebody like. He has everything. He does for himself. So, no, it's good, man. I tell you, I've been down that rabbit hole. I still do the Spawn stuff. I'm still just tiptoeing around different things like that. I went to a shop, so I know you don't care for that stuff as much as I do, but I enjoyed the reboot of it all. Well, I don't say reboot, but just this redirection of it all with Gunslinger and stuff like that. And then now this whole Transformers thing with G.I. Joe, it's just been a complete blast. I feel like a teenager reading comic books again.
Todd McFarlane deserves incredible respect. We talked about this before. He's kept the line on the prices on his comic books, and very few others have done so.
100% agree. Some of his books are literally like half price or less. I mean, it's nuts. There was a $10 Amazing Spider-Man recently, and I lost my. I couldn't believe it. And by the way, I did a video on Ultimate Spider-Man #1, probably one of the most popular books right now. I'm kind of mixed how I'm mixed on that book. I can't stand the concept of ultimate stuff and rebooting universes and that kind of thing, but I did have a good time reading it, to be honest. So
I like the idea that Marvel's had with these, like when they did the new universe and they did the Ultimate Universe and they did another one in between, where it's just a separate little continuity, a couple of series, totally and it's not grounded in the deep, long lore of 616. You know what I mean? So,
but they won't keep it there. They won't leave it alone. Is why I get frustrated. That's my frustration. Like, leave it alone. If the Ultimate Verse stayed in the Ultimate Verse, we would. Trust me, I was a cheerleader for the Ultimate Verse, even with Bendis. This was before Bendis graded on me. So back in the day, I loved all that stuff. I had all my hardcovers and things like that. But after a while, they got to find ways to incorporate it. That's when they lost me.
Well, yeah, they've ruined Miles Morales. When people do the nonsense, Miles Morales, I say no. Miles Morales is Ultimate Spider-Man 2. And you ruined the concept of the Ultimate Universe when you brought those surviving characters like Spider-Gwen from there, for example. When you bring those into the main universe, they just become schlock. You know what I mean? You just
he's rereading Spawn. Can't read it without Keith David's voice in my head. There's no other reason to. There's another voice. I thought it's Keith David. I don't understand the point, Copa. It's just it. You're doing it right then. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, it was fun to talk comics with folks. I'd love to hear from other folks out there. Hopefully you guys hit me up if you want to come on for a comic talk sometime and show off some stuff that you have or you've gotten or you're into right now. Love to do that. So I will have a comic talk next week with Angry Canadian.
Pops, can I just answer Dwayne here? Okay. In Marvel, Fin Fang Foom is not Jormungand. He's one of the space dragons that came to Earth with the other 10 that gave the 10 rings to the Mandarins. Jormungand has pretended to be Fin Fang Foom. They're separate characters in Marvel, right? Because Fin Fang Foom is a name in mythology for Jormungand, right? But the actual character of Fin Fang Foom is one of those space dragons that came with the 10 rings of power that the Mandarin got.
I'm glad he understood that, Dwayne. That is outside my memory hole of the Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I'm not saying I have, but I have not read that in God knows how long. And I probably would have jumped in wrong and thought it was just Fin Fang Foom. I wouldn't even know that was a impersonation. Got it. Yeah. Okay. I will defer. But yeah, folks, if you guys want to join next week or the week after, well, I can't guarantee the week after yet because I don't have anything recorded yet. But we'll definitely be doing some comic talks this way. We'll do a premiere recording of some kind and get into some other stuff. Hopefully you guys can just have some positive conversation about comics as well. We can pile on all we want, but reality is I think we have to just kind of sift through. As Angry Canadian says, Matt, I am the curator. We have to curate the decades and decades of comic books for people because they don't know what to do and how to parse through. That's why James came up with this idea of, why it's great. He's come up with some random single issue. It's fantastic. Why it's great. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, and then go from there. So.
Dwayne, Fin Fang Foom is a name in mythology for Jormungand, right? But the character of Fin Fang Foom was introduced as an Iron Man villain, is a space dragon, and Jormungand pretended to be him. You got to remember that in Marvel, that Guardians are sort of half alien, half god, right? You got to factor in the changes they made. So that's just to keep it.
All right, you nerds keep debating outside.
Okay,
Nerd debates. I love it. We are amongst our own when that's what's happening, folks.
Yep.
Matt, thanks for coming and hanging out.
No problem.
Thanks for being a member and a supporter for so long. Thanks to all of you out there for being here. Congratulations and welcome to all you members. I think most of you have been members at one time or another, so welcome back. Enjoy that, and appreciate all of your support and doing this because this is just. How did my wife say it? She was jokingly, I think you might be glowing because I was reading freaking G.I. Joe comic books. And I said, oh, I'm happy. It makes me happy. She's like, well, I'd like to see you happy. And I'm like, well, there you go. So, all right. But listen, folks, you guys take care. Be blessed. Until next week, we'll talk to you then. Check out the channel. Check out Matt's. Everybody else here in the chat, different folks that are creators that have come through. It's just always a blessing to be here. So thanks for everything. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
So I stacked all the pieces here. We're gonna.
Oh, he went for the hardcore. I wish I could see Loki's face.
Wow.
Padawannabe is the boss.
You're the boss, brother.
You're the boss. We are clipping this. This will be a new clip.
It's like dusty pop rocks with no pop.
Pop rocks with no pop. Holy cow.
There's no way that's gum anymore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. We do appreciate you. Phil McCracken. Ophelia McHawk.